And just in the lead up to the election, Violet Anne, one of the big talking points that emerged following a story by Dan Danaher in the Clare Champion was that you had built up rent arrears of 12,000 or €12,000, I think, over a few years. So has that rent been repaid at this stage?
Well, I have got in touch with a solicitor. I didn't have one beforehand, so the situation is with himself now, and I'm getting advice from himself as to how I proceed, because I have every intention of paying what is owed, that exact figure. So that is going to be dealt with now in the immediate future. So I will have more answers on that in the next, I suppose, I'm going to take a guess in the next 2-3 weeks as to what way it's going to actually pan out.
And are those figures correct that were reported there that I mentioned? Are they the correct figures of the exact amount that's owed?
I would say so, yes, yeah.
Okay. And just in terms of repaying, without getting into too much detail, because obviously, as you said, it is with a solicitor, but do you intend that it's going to be Rural Resettlement Ireland that is going to get repaid the money that you owe?
Well, as far as I know, like, the Rural Resettlement Ireland is not in existence at the moment. I know Jim Connolly himself has requested that I actually donate the money to a charity in West Clare. So from hearing his response, actually, I was going to do exactly that, and maybe pick 2 or 3 charities in West Clare and try split the money between them, I suppose. But as I was saying to you, because it's with a solicitor at the moment, I can't foresee exactly who's going to get the money or where it's going to go. So that process will have to be navigated as well, and I can come back to you, Corey, at a later date with more confirmation if that's something that you're interested in.
And
Absolutely.
have you spoken with Jim Connolly at all, Violet Anne, or is this just you hearing reports of his comments?
Yeah, well, I suppose I haven't had any form of conversation with Jim Connolly himself. I just seen that when Dan Danaher did do the news piece, he followed up with another article, and in that he had engaged in length with Jim Connolly, and he relayed an awful lot of his opinion and everything else. So it was from that article that I discovered that was what he had proposed and what he maybe wanted going forward. So yeah.
Just to clarify on it before we move on, you are hopeful that the matter will be dealt with and the payment will be given to whether it's a charity or an organisation within. Do you have a rough time frame on when you hope that will be done?
I don't. What I'm hoping for is in the next 2 to 3 weeks that the confirmation will be there in place as to what way it's going to proceed, because there's a few technicalities that I wasn't aware of. For instance, it would have to be paid in one lump sum, maybe. So I mean, I don't get paid an annual payment off Leinster House. It's an instalment. So that's something that has to be looked into as well, and how that can be done as quickly as possible, because for my sake, for my solicitor's sake, for Jim Connolly's sake, this is not something that we want to see dragging on for 2 to 3 years or anything to that effect at all. So I mean, it'll always be done with with the idea that this will be wound up as quickly as possible, just to put any negativity at bay, and so as that we can move forward with positivity. Yeah.
And the example set by having such rent arrears, Violet, are you worried that it sets now, as a national TD, that it sets a bad example? Because if such situations were to develop in Clare, the line someone could trot out is, sure, why do I have to pay my rent when one of our TDs didn't for a period of 3 years?
Well, I think the focus that it has received, this story in particular, throughout the election campaign, and how long that has extended on for, I don't think that would have given people the impression or the idea that this is a route that they would like to go down. I don't think anybody would want to have something like this hanging over their heads, or to be out there in the public to be discussed, without you being able to defend yourself as well, I suppose. That's another thing. But no, I suppose I'm very mindful that I represent change, so I'm not a conventional politician as such. I'm not the typical politician, and I just don't think my career is going to follow the normal route, let's say, anyway. So I think that this just adds testament to that that I come from a different background. I am not the usual Christine suit wearing politician, and I come from a social welfare background where it was a real struggle in so many other ways. And while it may be being discussed in a negative way, I think as well it shows that I'm a real person who went through real hardship, like we all do. And yeah, I think that's what has come from the whole ordeal, I suppose.
Okay.